This is my audience. What would you say if I told you that the most popular book in the world was also the most hated book? It's true. Throughout world history, the Bible has been simultaneously the most popular in the Western world, while being the most despised in Eastern countries. Even today, people in the Western world are starting to despise the Bible as well, associating it solely with faith in Christ. But I'd like to propose that, regardless of your faith, reading the Bible and studying it is always going to be a good idea for people in the Western world. As a student at a Christian university, I've learned a lot about the Bible's history. And one thing I've learned is that throughout many classes I've had on the Bible's history, it is a foundational text for Western literature and for Western civilization in general. So today we'll examine the wide cultural effect of the Bible, its helpful advice for various ills of the human psyche, and, of course, its historical significance. First off, the Bible acts as one of the most reliable records of ancient history we have to date. The consistent times and descriptions of events have allowed historians to verify various informations that have been considered myths beforehand. The Old Testament has specific events that historians use as waypoints to verify biblical events. For example, the migration of Joseph's family at the end of the book of Genesis. It's supported by evidence found in the Turin Kings List, an old stele that is covered in names of events and pharaohs from Egypt. And Kenneth Boa says that Ezekiel 1:2, because of that, we are able to date Ezekiel's first vision of God to the exact day. Fun fact, it was July 31st, 592 BC. Now, the various accounts of the Bible also can verify the existence of certain locations. There's a lot of ancient cities that people long thought fake, mythical, that are now historically accurate. Numerous ancient cities have been found and unearthed that are spoken of only in the Bible, such as Dan or Ephesus. And there is an overwhelming amount of historical evidence, both in the Bible and outside it with other sources, that makes it difficult to argue the resurrection of Jesus isn't historically accurate, as it remains one of the most well-documented events in ancient history. But why should someone who doesn't care about all that ancient history stuff read the Bible? Well, its historical impact is far from the majority of what the Bible can provide. Let's consider the deep cultural significance the Bible has for the Western world. In America alone, the Bible has a far-reaching influence on legal issues, and understanding it better will help you understand the reasons behind some of the laws and beliefs we as Americans have. The majority of moral codes in America, and even some of America's laws themselves, find their roots in the Bible. The Ten Commandments are the most obvious, with laws against perjury, murder, and theft today reflecting the law of Moses in the Old Testament. But the idea of even loving others regardless of affiliation can be traced back to Paul's words in the New Testament, saying to love one another with genuine affection and take delight in honoring others. Also, the effect of the Bible extends even further, out into world literature. And as such, knowing the Bible gives you unique insight into information and allusions in books you wouldn't notice otherwise. Literature is intimately connected to the Bible, not only because it's a work of literature, but because it's made literature the way it is today. Snakes, for example, are common symbols for evil and trickery in all kinds of world media. You can definitely see them in books like Harry Potter and Magnus Chase. But even smaller forms like Suzanne Collins' prequel book to her famous The Hunger Games series, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, features a villain who is constantly associated with snakes and is always called a snake, a snake-like person. That can be traced back to the creation story in Genesis, where Satan disguised himself as a serpent to trick the first humans into disobeying God. T.R. Henn says the Bible is so intricately mixed into world literature, it is the foundation of all Western civilization and literature. He says that you won't be able to find anything in Western civilization that cannot be traced back to the Bible. But even then, I know someone will say, I don't care about the legal system. Why should I read the Bible if it doesn't help me? That's the thing, it does. The Bible has many books that deal with very real human issues. And many of the verses addressing those issues could be seen as a sort of guide to dealing with them. The wisdom literature of the Bible provides a rich groundwork for habit forming, proper living, even healthy relationships. Most applicable of the wisdom literature being Proverbs and the Song of Songs. Proverbs gives education on how to live and walk, giving prudence to the naive, to the youth knowledge and discretion. The book is a teacher. It wants to make people more intelligent. It wants to turn those who read it into discerning people. Solomon gives us the glorious outworking of that type of relationship, the kind that is desired, a romantic one. It is not the result of a husband and wife dutifully fulfilling their marital obligations. Here is described two people who live in humility, dignity, and security with one another, and with great affection towards one another, regardless of any personal insecurity. But not only does it help with bad habits and relationships, it also deals with issues of depression a lot. And it does this both in terms of encouragement and teaching how to resist the depressive thoughts that might come to your head. Psalm 42 in particular has been helpful for me. It depicts David in an utterly depressive state, crying against his soul and saying, "Why art thou cast down, O my soul, and why art thou disquieted within me?" I can guarantee most anyone who's dealt with depression knows exactly what he's talking about. It feels like your own mind is trying to attack you. And David is crying out against his soul for attacking him here. Dr. David Martin Lloyd-Jones, who was a British theologian, wrote a book called Spiritual Depression. And he said that it is interesting to notice the frequency with which this particular theme, depression, is dealt with in the scriptures. And the only conclusion to be drawn from that is that it is a very common condition. The Bible itself doesn't affirm depression as being okay, but it affirms it as being common and says, here's how to help. And by far, that is the part of the Bible that will affect people in the biggest way. All the others lay the groundwork, yes, but the Bible's help to understand the human condition will hit you right where you're at. Overall, I think it's clear the Bible is an invaluable resource in the world. With its effect on history, an effect on Western culture, and even how it could affect you as you are now, it has a far-reaching influence that will only grow as you study the Bible. I understand you may not be religious, but please believe me when I say you don't need to be religious to read the Bible. It's not going to light on fire in your hands. At the end of the day, it is a book that was written to be read. That doesn't mean you won't have changed by the time you finished reading it. And I can say with the utmost confidence, you will have changed and grown for the better. Whether it's religiously, mentally, habitually, something in you will have changed for the better.